Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Black Army Radio, episode number 4. Episode number 4, twice in a week. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that the news is coming in hot and heavy right now and getting crazy, crazy. How we doing, Joel?
Oh, doing good, man. Enjoying the day, having a little nightcap with the podcast and talk about the world catching fire.
Dude. So we're just gonna get right into it, man. So so we did an episode 2, where we talked about what land heritage means and about what land rights mean based on heritage. And we made a pretty good argument for the fact that there's been many civilizations that have existed for longer than 4,000 years and blah, 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 and have land heritage rights that would equal that of the Israelis. Once again, Israel is a state, not a religion. I'm going to say that right away because we're not talking about a religion. We're talking about a state, the state of Israel. But that's not all this conversation is going to be about. So words coming out pretty quick down the pipe about there being some super duper religious invocations from the United States military chain of command leadership and our political leadership regarding our fight in Iran in the Middle East and why we're doing it. Okay. And so I'm going to read this and then we're going to play a video. All right. And we're going to kind of react to it. And then we're going to have a little bit of history of the Jewish temple system and Christianity and Islam and that whole little region area right there, and about what the third temple really means for Judaism. And so this has been reported. At least 200 members of the U.S. Armed Services have filed complaints alleging that military commanders have used extremist Christian rhetoric to justify the war with Iran. One NCO, non-commissioned officer, said that their commander urged us to tell our troops that this was all part of God's divine plan. And he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelation, referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ. He also stated that his commanding officer said President Trump has been anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth. What do you think about that, Joel?
I think it's fucking crazy. And I and it doesn't surprise me because like I was talking in our last episode, there's I'm not saying every conservative is a Christian nationalist, but there is undertone, and especially this last 4 years of people like Pete Hegseth, and if you just follow some of the stuff he posts out about his church and stuff, it's not hidden. This is something that would have been more or less mainstream, and it's become a little more mainstream. And I'm not surprised to be hearing that coming out of this administration in wartime, especially in the Middle
Dude,
East.
I'll tell you what, I am fucking, as a guy who served a lot over there, I'm surprised. I am surprised. Like, that is directly against UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. Not to just mention the First Amendment, big time. I almost didn't believe it, And we're gonna play another thing. I'm gonna play another thing right now that we're gonna react to, and then we're gonna get into a little history of what this really of this region and what the third temple means and all this kind of stuff that they're starting to do. You got a ton of Christian Zionist pastors out there talking about how this war is going to erect the third temple and bring about the second coming of Jesus. And it's like, it's happening in our leadership, in our chain of command in the military, and in our political leadership. I don't even know what to say about it. I'll play this part.
There's something happening inside our military right now, and it's not normal. In just 3 days, from Saturday through Monday, the Military Religious Freedom Foundation logged over 110 complaints across 40 different units at 30 military installations. Every branch of the military, 110. This reporting is from Jonathan Larson's Substack, posted yesterday, and you need to know why that number exists. A combat unit commander stood in front of troops who could be deployed to Iran at any moment, opened a combat readiness briefing, and said, President Trump has been anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth. And he had a big grin on his face when he said it. Now, this is coming from an NCO who is Christian, writing on behalf of 15 troops who are mostly Christian, who said, reading directly from their email to MRFF, what he did this morning was so toxic and so over the line that it shocked many of us. A Christian soldier shocked by what their Christian commander said in a combat readiness briefing. Is any of this legal? No, fuck no. The First Amendment's Establishment Clause, Article 6, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, you cannot use your rank to impose religion on subordinates. That's not a gray area. That's a foundational law. But the guy responsible for enforcing those rules is Pete Hegseth, who runs a White House Bible study, holds Pentagon prayer sessions featuring Christian nationalist preachers from his personal circle, and said on the record that we need to be on bended knee recognizing the providence of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Now, these commanders aren't going rogue. They're reading the room. They feel licensed. The MRFF has fought this stuff for decades through Republican and Democratic administrations. They say they have never seen volume like this. Not after 9/11, not after October 7th. This is new. If you're in uniform, any religion, no religion, you swore an oath to the Constitution, not to Trump, not to Hegseth, not to the Book of Revelation. Receipts, not speculation.
Dude, I mean, like, and the more that's coming out about this is legit. This shit's legit. I mean, I can't fucking imagine this. I mean, in my time of service, there was nothing like this, dude. Like, I mean, when I was in the military, when I was contracting, I mean, we were dumbass knuckle draggers, and we would invoke the pagan, like, Nordic gods, like Odin,
Right.
Thor,
Yeah.
like, more than we ever did with, like,
Right.
Christianity or anything. That whole thing, like, was it Cash Pastel after Charlie Kirk got killed, and he said, "We'll see you in Valhalla, brother," as if he had any fucking right to
Right.
say that at all. But it's like we would.
Right.
That was a lot of kind of how we felt about things a lot, even though there was a little bit of a Christian, like, crusader perspective there, for sure. But it was like there was no I never had any leadership on any level in 10 years. I did the war for 10 years. And it was like I'd never had a situation where I had a commander or anybody in a leadership position invoke that outside of like the chaplain, right? Because you like
Right.
every unit has its own like chaplain and stuff like that religious chaplain you can go talk to. We had a pretty badass one named Captain Strucker. He was a freaking he had fought in the battle in Black Hawk Down in the battle of in Mogadishu,
Oh shit.
and he was hard as a coffin nail, that guy. But I mean, we never had any command leadership that would invoke religion or like the second coming of Jesus, and we were in the Holy Land, like basically,
Right.
the whole time and stuff. I mean, before we get into kind of history that we're going to have to get into here, because we're going to play a couple other videos too. We have Trump's spiritual advisor. We have Pete Hegseth. I think we got one other video, like they're each like a minute long, but I mean, this shit's getting silly. Like, it's getting crazy as hell. I don't know how to feel about this. I mean, I know that there's I served with a lot of people that were totally non-religious.
Right.
I mean, do they think everybody in there is a Christian? Because, I mean, fuck, I served with a lot of dudes over the years, and there was only a few guys that were like righteously religious. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
super duper religious, like hardline, like fundamental kind of religious. I mean, I could count those guys in 10 years in one hand.
Well, and I'm gonna digress real quick, and like some of the hypocrisy in this. Pete Hegseth has been caught cheating on his wife, similar to like Trump. Like, these aren't good Christian people. Like, I may not have liked Mitt Romney as far as some of his policies, but as far as a man goes, he's not in the Epstein files. He's a good person, you know? Like, I may disagree with some of his
Neither was the
policies
leader of
and
Iran.
stuff. Yeah, right. Touche.
I mean,
And
not
it's
that he
like
was a
I
good
have much
fucking
more
guy. But I mean,
I have much more respect for a Tim Tebow Christian who like walks that path, who doesn't cuss, doesn't drink, who's been with the same woman. You know, like I have a lot of respect for the person who actually walks that path and holds up to the path. I have no respect for somebody who preaches it but cheats on their fucking wives and has a record of being a shitty person. You know,
yeah. And
I
people
hate
can,
that hypocrisy.
for sure, and people can get better, and they can recover from stuff like that. There's a ton of great recovery stories out there for sure for people that have been down the wrong path. I mean, shit, I'm probably one of those recovery stories, honestly. But it's like,
I'm
the fact that these guys they're in leadership positions of power right now, currently as we speak. I mean, they're not like they are the same people that they've been, and it's very, very,
yes.
very clear and apparent that that's who they are, and that's what they believe, and they also, especially the Christians, like Pete Hegseth and Trump's spiritual advisor and some others, like Mike Huckabee, have a really distorted view of what Christianity really is. I mean,
Right.
they're anyway. We'll get into why
Yeah.
that is. I think it's important for us to get into why that is a little bit. So when we did a little bit of that history before in episode 2, we talked about the temples and the inhabitation of that land and like all that kind of stuff. So 2 temples have been built and destroyed there. The first temple was built when, remember we said Jerusalem was first founded as a city state in like 3500 or 3000 BC. As a pagan city state that existed for thousands of years before King David took it over and turned it into the center of the Jewish realm, basically, for the first time ever. All right. Then they erected the temple. They erected the first temple in like 966 BC. Okay. And it lasted for about 500 years. And then the Babylonians invaded and they destroyed it in 586 BC. That's the first temple. Okay. The second temple was built after Cyrus the Great, who started the Persian Empire, as we talked about in episode 2. And he basically gave Jerusalem back to the Hebrews, sons and daughters of Israel, Jewish people. He gave them back, and he said you can rebuild your temple, because Cyrus the Great was the kind of leader, a lot like Genghis Khan, remember, where he would live and let live as long as you paid a tax and as long as you gave him warriors if you needed warriors, or else he was going to come crush your nuts if you didn't do those 2 things. If you did those things, you can worship whoever the hell you want, you could keep your lands, you could be cool, everything's fine. Okay. They reenacted the temple. It was rebuilt in 576 BC, and then it was destroyed for the second time by the Roman Empire, not the Palestinians, people, not the Palestinians. The Roman Empire destroyed it in 70 AD. Right? Okay, so those are the 2 stop losses basically for the temples that's talked about a lot. Now there is a third temple scenario. Before we get into that, we have to understand why this ground in that area where that temple is and everything is so sacred and holy, not just for Judaism, but obviously for Christianity and Islam as well. And there's a place called the Foundation Stone. Okay. The Foundation Stone is extraordinarily important to Judaism. The Jewish people literally believe, and this is in Jerusalem, that on this mountain, it's called Mount Moriah. And it's not even really, I've been there. It's like a hill. Like you wouldn't think about it as like a mountain. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with like the Garden of Gethsemane. I've seen that. And it's not like, it's not like as extravagant. You know what I'm saying? And this Mount Moriah isn't very big. It's like a hill. But there's something on there called the Foundation Stone. And that was from the very, very first temple around King David. And the reason why they built the temple there was because the Jewish people believe that is where humanity or the world began, that the world basically sprouted from Mount Moriah. And they built their first temple there. And where this foundation stone still sits to this day, all the Jewish people believe. Now, there's not any records of this because when the Romans took over, when they sacked the city in like 70 AD, they destroyed a shit ton of literature and stuff. And so they don't have like a documented history of that, the fact that foundation stone is right where the altar was of the temple, but they believe that that's where the altar was of the temple. And they also believe that underneath that foundation stone is kind of like what we Christians would call purgatory a little bit. You have like lost souls. There's like supposedly a cave or something that's underneath that altar stone or that foundation stone that opens up into like maybe like a crevice or some kind. And the Jewish people believed that that was like where souls kind of waited for to be judged, right? To move on to the next realm or wherever whatever was going to happen. And so for them, it was like the holiest of holies. And um, basically, what happened? So what happened after that? After 70 A.D., the Romans, when they sacked Jerusalem and they murdered the hell out of all the Jewish people there by millions, and then they enslaved them, and then it was vanquished for 1,800 years until the UN reestablished it in 1948. But in the meantime, okay, Islam, after the Jews were vanquished in 70 AD, Muhammad was born in like 570 AD, okay, which was like 500 years after the temple had been destroyed the second time by the Romans. And like 50 years after Muhammad died, and he obviously started Islam, they built the Dome of the Rock on top of the foundation stone. Now, what the Muslims believe about the foundation stone that's different than like the Jews is the Muslims believe that Muhammad ascended to Allah or God on the basically from the foundation stone. That's what their belief is. And so for them, it's one of their three holiest sites. You have Mecca, Medina, which is like where Muhammad was born and then died, and then where he ascended to heaven was on the foundation stone and then they built the Dome of the Rock. Now the Dome of the Rock is like, if you go to Israel, it's that giant, or you've probably seen it in pictures, it's that giant, beautiful gold mosque. It's that big gold dome. It's in like all the pictures, right? And I've never been in it. I've seen it. I've gone right by it numerous times. It's a really cool looking place. And it was built 50 years after Muhammad died. So it was built around like, I don't know, like basically around like 610 AD or something in the 7th century. And it has been there ever since. It's been there ever since. But it's been there for 1,000+ years. You know what I mean? Like a pretty damn long time.
Yeah.
So how does Christianity fit into this? So also really quick before we get into that. So when it comes to the third temple, so the Jewish people believe, they don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, right? That's where Judaism and Christianity kind of separate. So the Jewish people don't even believe that Jesus was a prophet, unlike Islam. In Islam, Jesus is a prophet. He's one of the major prophets in the Quran. But in Judaism, he's not. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of reports out there where you hear people, Jewish individuals, say that Jesus is burning in excrement in hell. Quote, literally quote. And it's said repeatedly. And that's fine. You know, they believe that's fine. But their belief is that their Messiah, the Messiah that they believe is going to come, will come when the third temple is rebuilt. And he can't come until that third temple is rebuilt. And that temple has to be built on top of the foundation stone, which currently has the Dome of the Rock over it. Okay. And it's not just that they believe that the Messiah, it's one of two things. The vast majority of the Jewish people seem to believe that the Messiah has to come through the rebuilding of the temple, of the third temple. Some others believe that the Messiah himself will rebuild the temple, okay? That the Messiah will come and then he will rebuild the temple over the foundation stone. Okay, so how does this separate from Christianity when you have like Christian Zionism and they're talking about this stuff? Well, so Jesus has a quote in John that basically says to the effect of destroy the temple and in 3 days I will rise it up again. Something to that effect. Now, when the Sanhedrin, which was the Jewish council led by Joseph Caliphus, the Sanhedrin were the Jewish priest that got Jesus executed, got him crucified. As a matter of fact, one of the charges that they leveled against him to Pontius Pilate was the fact that he had said that he would destroy the temple. Now, there's debate about this. There's a lot of people will say Jesus didn't say he was going to destroy the temple. Jesus said the temple was going to be destroyed, that it would be removed brick by brick or stone by stone, and it would be destroyed, which is exactly what happened like 30-ish years after he was crucified. So members of this Sanhedrin and this is kind of an interesting prophecy, members of the Sanhedrin, which would be the Jewish council that had Jesus crucified, would have been alive 30 years later, right? When the Romans sacked Jerusalem and then destroyed the temple and took it apart stone by stone.
Right.
Now, the stink of it is with Christianity, where this separates is Jesus is basically saying that he is the temple, right? Like the body and the blood, that he's the temple, that the temple is no longer needed to be rebuilt because the temple is through him. And he said 3 days based on, biblical prophecy, how it's written, interpreted. And it is interesting, obviously, that 3 days later, right, he rose from the dead. If you're down with Christianity. And so as far as Christians are concerned and how Christians have basically interpreted this since that time is that through the body and blood of Jesus Christ, you were saved through belief. You know what I mean? Does this all kind of make sense so far?
Yep.
Am I not rambling too bad?
I mean,
much all
it's
over the
good to
place?
lay down the history of it, because I don't think a lot of people know, and especially the difference between like where it veers off in the story of the apocalypse and the second
Sure,
coming, like between each religion, the differences. So it's definitely good
exactly.
context. Go.
And so there's a lot of pastors out there that are starting to get really, really aggressive and violent about the third temple. And these are Christian pastors. They're not Jewish. They're not, they're Christian pastors within the United States for the most part that are now starting to talk to their congregations, and they're getting videotaped, and they're hyper aggressive and violent, talking about how necessary it is to basically blow the Dome of the Rock off the face of the earth and rebuild the temple. Okay. Which is not a Christian. This is not a Christian belief. That's what's interesting.
Right.
This is another reason why when we talk about whether or not this is a war for Israel, right? This is a connection here, because this is a strange Christian connection between like Christian Zionism, Christianity, and Judaism in the state of Israel and us. And this goes all the way back to the Puritans. Remember I talked about how they used to teach history through the lens of the Old Testament because they didn't actually understand what history was. All they
Right.
had was the Old Testament and the stories of the Old Testament and the timelines of the Old Testament. You know what I mean? But as a society and as a people, we have a hell of a lot more information and stuff on that now. And so why don't you?
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
and real quick too is, I think the funny thing is the story of the apocalypse almost sets it up. If you have money and power, like they told you the story already, so you can manipulate the scenario. So they think the person who's rebuilding the temple, whether it's financially, whether it, like it gives them right to say that is Jesus, when like the narrative's been written where you could manipulate it to look like that anyways. I don't know. It's always been weird to me. And the more you like spelled it out to me, I just thought of that. But go ahead with the video.
Oh yeah, it's dude. I'm gonna play a video now, and this is a pretty I guess a pretty influential pastor, um and it was filmed a little bit ago, but I think it's super relevant because this guy is literally talking about he openly in his church saying that we need to starve the Palestinians, we need to starve them, we need to take away their fuel, and we need to blow the Temple Mount or the Dome of the Rock off the face of the earth, so the Jewish people can rebuild the third temple, and Jesus can come again.
Yeah.
And Jesus can come again. Obviously, there's a disconnect on on like who the Christian Messiah is and who the Jewish Messiah is. There's a huge disconnect here. So I'm gonna play this right now.
Pastor Locke.
Greg Locke.
The Gaza Strip, which has now been cut off by Israel, and rightly so. They should have cut them off a long time ago. Now, I don't care how insensitive you think I am to that. There's 6 doors in this church. You can leave anytime you want to. They've cut them off, electricity. They've cut off the water. They should have. Now, listen, I'm not for hurting anyone that's innocent, but anybody that supports terrorism is not innocent. You understand that?
Oh my God.
Israel should make the Gaza Strip a parking lot by this time next week. destroy the whole thing. What they ought to do is evacuate up there on the hill and get a great big missile and blow that wicked dome of the rock plumb off of the spot where it's standing right now, so we can get that third temple rebuilt and usher in the coming of Jesus.
It's fucking crazy.
Dude, you know what I really love about that? The piano music. I love how it's
Yeah.
like, I can just picture the guy on the piano right now, just like slowly working into it, right? It's like, just hey, we need to take away all their food. We need to take away all their fuel. We need to turn it into a parking lot by this time next year. And we need to take a big, beautiful missile, a big, beautiful, glorious missile, and blow that dome of the rock right off the face of the earth so the Jews can rebuild their temple. And then the music's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know what's even more disgusting? It's a video. And there's like 4 or 5, like 13-year-old kids, white kids, standing behind them, all holding Israeli flags.
Yeah.
And you're just like, dude, there is, I mean, no connection there between, and he's a pastor of a Christian denomination religion.
Right.
And I mean, that doesn't sound real Jesus-y to me. Does that sound like Jesus-y to you? I mean, when you think about Jesus, you think about like the original hippie. Does that sound like a real Jesus-y way to talk about this stuff?
Yeah, starving people, you know, and if they support terrorists, most of the people in those places are just, like you said, they're just people trying to live, and there's terrorists from those places, but that's like, yeah, it's so fucking makes no sense to me. And that's why I always say, like, I appreciate the Jesus Christian who lives by it and, you know, like wants to help people out, or at least doesn't want to watch them die or make them suffer, you know, like what the fuck?
Dude, it kind of goes right along the lines though, man. I mean, you talked about Pete Hegseth, pastor. He talked about loving pedophiles. Literally said, we love pedophiles in this church. We love them because we're going to love them out of pedophilia. Yep, it's like, yeah, you can love them with a bullet. How about that? That's a good way to love them. Fuck. That kind of falls right along the lines of what we talk about with all this Epstein shit and all this other stuff going on right now. There is one more really interesting aspect about the foundation stone in the third temple that I want to talk about, just because I think it's interesting and it's kind of an interesting historical connection. So the very last emperor of Rome was a guy named Julian the Apostate, and he was the very last non-Christian, I should say, the very last non-Christian emperor of Rome, which is why he's called Julian the Apostate. And he hated Christians, apparently. I'm sure he killed a hell of a lot of them, whatever. And ironically, on his way to war with Iran, he decided, and this was in 336 AD. So this was like 200 or 300 years after, or I'm sorry, before the Dome of the Rock was built over the foundation stone, right? With Islam and that mosque. And so he's on his way to war with Iran, and he decides that he wants to stop in Jerusalem and rebuild the third temple, because he thinks it's interesting, the whole prophecy about the Jewish Messiah, right? Because the Jewish Messiah can't come unless the third temple's built. And so he takes his army in 336 AD through that area and locates the foundation stone, and him and the crew starts getting to work on it. Crazy. This sounds like so much like biblical hand of God kind of craziness. So accounts from members of his army, and you can Google these accounts, like they're searchable, they're primary source material that's discoverable. It's there. Basically detail how like balls of fire and like that the men that were working on top of the like around that foundation stone were getting burned, and then the earth shook and cracked and they split and they took off and they went to Iran because they got super spooked. And then he died in Iran immediately. He was killed just a couple months after this, apparently. This guy Julian the Apostate. Now, the most interesting part of this is now, all these years later, between archaeology and geology, we can read a lot of stuff like ancient tsunamis and earthquakes and volcanoes. We can date a lot of this stuff. There was a massive earthquake that happened in that region in 363 AD. Massive earthquake, destroyed a whole bunch of stuff. And so I don't know what any of that means, but that's just a cool thing to throw in there. Because, and it's also like, how ironic is it that he was on his way to freaking Iran, got
The
smoked,
same.
couldn't rebuild the third temple. Like, that's the only reason the Romans didn't end up rebuilding the third temple, like 300 years almost after they were the ones that destroyed the second one, was because of that earthquake. That's kind of,
Right.
I don't know. That's just an interesting, crazy
weird.
history sidebar. You know what I'm saying? But do you got anything you want to say, or I'm gonna play that Pete Hegseth video?
Nope. Go ahead and play the Hegseth.
Dude. So this is also Pete Hegseth. Whoa. This is also Pete Hegseth talking about the third temple as a Christian. Talking about the third temple again.
There's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible. I don't know how it would happen. You don't know how it would happen, but I know that it could happen.
What?
Well, and that's the funny thing with religion, and the part that's bothered me most, because it's all about how you interpret it, and you can make up your interpretation of it and how you do it. And that's the weird, the Christian Zionism movement that's been happening in the last 80 years, 90 years, of how they've contorted the story to make it work for both of them, and really it's the making everyone agree to hate Muslims more than anything. I mean, in like the most simplest terms,
Oh yeah, I'm starting to believe that's the biggest trick that's been pulled in the freaking, like, this, like, in the last 20 years, in the last few decades.
Right.
There's Marco Rubio out there and Tom Cotton, head of the Department of State, big time senator. And they're both admitted on camera that the reason we attacked Iran was because Israel was going to attack Iran.
Yeah.
And if Israel attacked Iran, we weren't going to be able to get our people out of there fast enough to save American lives. And they admitted it on camera. Tom Cotton said it on fucking Fox News. Marco Rubio kind of seemed like he said it on accident while he was holding a press conference. And the more these guys tried to like backpedal, the more they basically said the exact same thing. And not just them. Like, now you have Pete Hegseth saying it, Donald Trump saying it.
Right.
You obviously have Rubio, Tom Cotton. I mean, like, the fact that we're now doing this to try to invoke the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And to get the third temple rebuilt for the Jewish people on the foundation stone.
Why?
Goes against everything I thought we were fucking fighting for fucking 20 plus years.
Well, and I think the big thing too, it's a fucking really bad time for us to go to war. You've touched up on where our arsenal's at because we give it to other people to fight wars, mostly Israel and a lot of the Ukraine thing, and our deficit as a country is the highest it's ever fucking been, and then we're going to go start a fucking war, which is going to make costs go up. We're going to spend more money. And the funny thing is, Iran's doing it on a budget in a year that we have just to put gas in our fucking army vehicles and tanks and jets. They're doing it with, like you said, $40,000 drones. We lost
like $20,000 to $30,000 drones.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they're getting intel. So we're finding out. And here's another thing. So there's a big blackout in the Middle East right now. So we know that we have lost American bases in the Middle East. Bases we have put billions of American taxpayer dollars into. Billions. Bahrain, Emirates, our embassies in
Qatar.
Baghdad, Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia, Dubai. And as far as I've heard, and it seems to me like this is pretty credible, that most of those bases they're fucking gone. They're fucking gone. Like, they're blown the fuck off the face of the earth, basically. Like, that's what a lot of the reporting is. Even though there's not a lot of video and stuff coming out, there is a massive restriction of video and reporters. And of course, in Israel, I mean, Israel does not allow foreign correspondents to
Right.
cover their shit. They don't. They don't even have their own journalists covering their shit. The whole time the Gaza war was happening for 4 years, no journalists were allowed in there, and 200 plus Palestinian journalists were killed, right, with intention. And it's like they don't want anything coming out. And we have no idea how bad it is when it comes to fatalities, infrastructure, energy, right? We were talking about energy.
Well, that's
So the
1/5 of the
Chinese-
world's energy comes from that region. You know, it's huge.
It's a big deal. The Chinese, who haven't been in a goddamn military engagement since the Korean War. You ever notice how much we like to badmouth other countries and religions and peoples all the time for
Right.
being like, think about this. Why do we have such a fucking problem with Muslims? What do people usually say? Muslim extremism? Islamic extremism?
Because
How is this shit we're not listening to right now not religious extremism? How is religious extremism not happening within the United States military right now? You have commander, like, listen, I served with a lot of people that were not fucking religious. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they weren't saying the rosary every other day. Like, they were just kids,
Right.
dudes, 20-year-old dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, knuckle draggers, like I said, door kickers. Like, there are a few religious guys in there. You know, everybody has like a pocket. I went to a private Catholic school for 8 years with Irish nuns that were super angry all the time, like from Ireland, with Irish accent, like angry Irish nuns.
Right.
You know, 8 years in private Catholic school. And it's like I wasn't very super religious when I got into the military. I mean, I believed in spiritualism and praying and, like, you know, positive outcomes and stuff, but it's like I wasn't hyper religious at all. And it's like, how
Right.
is this different? How is this not Christian extremism? How is ushering in the third temple, blowing the freaking dome of the rock off the face of the earth, and basically other pastors saying turn Gaza into a parking lot while we kill 20 or 30,000 fucking children?
Right.
And you're like, how is that not religious extremism? How is
Well,
that
and-
not exactly what we've been talking about for fucking decades in this country about Muslim extremists, Islamic extremism? Hey, I've been over there, man. Been over there. Spent a hell of a lot of time around Muslims. Honestly, I've probably spent more time around Muslims than I have around Christians. Like, with intention, like, gotten to know.
Right.
If you really think about it. You know what I mean? Like, if you really think about it, I could walk by a Christian on the street of America, like, I don't fucking know. But it's like,
Right.
I spent a hell of a lot of time in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, some other places. And it's like predominantly Islamic countries. And I mean, other than their war fighters, like, you know what I mean? Which were Mujahideen, holy warriors. Like, we call our warriors names too. I mean, I don't understand how this doesn't fall along the same lines of religious extremism.
Well,
Go ahead, bud.
religious extremism, and it was propped up too. Like, they set it up when Trump pulled out of the Obama's nuclear treaty with Iran, and I think it was 2000. We started sanctioning the shit out of Iran. So essentially, intentionally make their government to collapse, knowing that they do have the crazy Ayatollah wouldn't be scared to shoot his own civilians. They knew the civilians would revolt. They knew as soon as the Ayatollah turned on the civilians, they could start propping that up as like, look at this evil dictator, which, yeah, I think he killed like 35,000 civilians over protests in the last 4 years or some crazy number like that, which is horrible. I'm not saying that's good, but up until those sanctions, that country was running fine. For about 20 years, it was doing its thing, you know? And then all of a sudden those sanctions came, and then all the weapons of mass destruction, then all the, oh, they have uranium after we blow their shit up, you know, it's, I don't know.
Hey, do you think
Fucking
North Korea
crazy.
has human rights violations?
Yeah. Lots.
What else do they have?
Nukes.
Goddamn nuclear weapons. And here's another thing that's coming out of this that's real interesting to me. So the world is so unstable, man. And we have been bombing motherfuckers for decades. Israel has been like 7 or 8 countries in the last few years. Trump has bombed more countries than any other American president, in case anybody's not aware of that. Mr. Nobel Peace Prize. He's bombed more countries than any other goddamn president.
Anti-war.
Yeah.
Sure.
But now you have countries that are coming out and they're starting to worry about their nuclear development. Why? Because we don't fuck with nuclear countries. Period. The end. Like I said before, Pakistan has nukes. India has nukes. China has nukes. Russia has nukes. North Korea has nukes. There's a lot of like Axis powers that have shitty human rights records that have nukes that we don't fucking do anything with at all. We cannot help ourselves in the Middle East. Like, it has gotten beyond disgusting. Right now, France has openly come out and say that they want to enrich their nuclear stockpile because the world's unstable and they feel safer if they have a bigger nuclear arsenal. Not just them, Poland. Poland doesn't have fucking nukes. They want nukes. Poland is like, we want nukes. Somebody put some goddamn nukes in our fucking country or we're going to develop nukes. We want nuclear weapons. And even more interesting, Canada. Canada doesn't have nuclear weapons. But their former, like, basically Minister of Defense is now coming out and saying that Canada should freaking be open to stockpiling nuclear weapons. Because they feel like that is the only way that they're not going to get screwed with in this super duper unstable international relations, geopolitical shit show that we're in right now. That's what's happening with this.
And the fucked up thing is like we've had these alliances that have been together forever. And I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of how money went around in NATO, in the UN, but also if you remove Israel from that equation, there's not that much money being spent in the UN or NATO, you know, if you remove Israel. And
hey,
but
real quick.
Go ahead.
So if you have nuclear weapons, are you required to detail those nuclear weapons to the international community by chance?
Yeah, you're supposed to. I know Israel hasn't. I know America
You don't
hasn't,
say.
right?
Also, did Janine Maxwell's dad have something to do with Israel stealing nuclear technology from the United States and now having their own nuclear arsenal that they don't fucking register internationally?
Sure did, because he was.
So explain this to me. We're going to war and we're willing to stack fucking American bodies again, and spend American treasure again, in the same goddamn area for the same fucking reason that we were supposedly doing it in 2003 for weapons of mass destruction. Because of Iran, and before that because of Iraq, because Netanyahu testified in front of Congress in 2002 about Saddam Hussein developing nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, has Israel in any way, shape, or form ever let the international community come in and detail their nuclear weapons arsenal? Has that ever happened? Have they ever openly admitted in public that they had fucking nuclear weapons?
Nope.
No, they haven't. And, you know, which honestly, and I wasn't even going to play this, but I'm going to play it now because I can't help myself. I'm going to do this. So this is an interview with Medina Hassan, who was like a former Israeli prime minister, and Danny Alion, who's a pretty badass reporter, I guess. And this is literally just about Israel's nuclear arsenal. And I wasn't going to play it, but like I'm going to play it. We're going to play it. We're going to talk about it.
Because how many nuclear weapons does Iran have as of today?
Right now, I hope none.
Okay, how many does Israel have?
No idea.
No idea. You were in the government. They don't tell you that stuff.
No idea.
Who do they tell? So do you recognize the hypocrisy of Israel having a secret illicit nuclear weapons program that it won't open up its doors to and won't talk about, and then lecturing everyone else in the region?
Absolutely not. You know why?
If an Iranian guest came on my show and I asked him about Iran's nuclear, he said, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about it. Would you be okay with that? You'd be outraged.
Of course.
And yet you sit here as a former minister of the Israeli
because-
government saying, oh, I don't know, I never talked about nuclear.
Because there was like 16 United Nations Security Council resolutions against Iran.
And there is against Israel. And there is against Israel as well.
About
your nuclear program. Yes, there is. UN Resolution 487. Let me read it to you. The UN Security Council in 1981 says, calls upon Israel urgently to place its nuclear facilities under the safeguards of the IAEA. Why haven't you done that?
Because Iran has never attacked a neighbor. Israel has repeatedly attacked its neighbors. Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has refused to sign. Iran submits to inspection by the International Nuclear Energy Agency. Israel refuses to submit. Iran has no nuclear weapons. Israel has between 75 and 400 nuclear weapons. So Israel poses an existential threat to Iran. For the last 40 years, Israel has conducted a systematic campaign of disinformation about Iran. Why the lies? Why the double standard?
Go.
And on top of that, what Israel has been proven to do is false flags things, you know, and that's just been rumored to happen in Israel, or not in Israel, but was it Saudi Arabia, and I forget the other country, who caught Mossad agents like getting ready to set up bombs, you know, and they did that in Egypt in 1950. They set up a bombing in Egypt to make it look like it was Arab nations and you know, they want to shift that whole region so it's all them, you know, and
Dude, they just got
rumors
Mossad
that-
just got busted. Like
yeah,
in Saudi Arabia and one other place. Now, reports are disputing this both
Yeah.
ways. But the initial reports came out and basically said that multiple Mossad agents got arrested, like within Saudi Arabia and I think Dubai or somewhere else. And their whole plan was to conduct a terrorist assault or explosion, some kind of a terrorist attack, and then have that be blamed on Iran.
Yep.
Have it be blamed on Iran. And they got busted. Like, I don't put it past them at all. I'm sorry at this point. Here, hey, Americans, all you fuckers out there listening, you know what the United States has to do? We have to submit to all the nuclear rules, all of them. We're subject to every single goddamn international nuclear law and rule that there fucking is from the United Nations and from everything else. Why are we okay with doing it? And why are you okay with Israel not doing it? Why is a country the size of New Jersey that gets all of our weapon systems, gets a shit ton of our money, has free education and healthcare, able to pull off this fucking shit, and we can't? While we're fucking funding them, while we're arming them, while we're giving them all their money, while we're the reason why they have free healthcare and education. It's because of goddamn us. We don't have fucking free healthcare and education. As a matter of fact, people can't wait to talk to you about why we shouldn't. And why meanwhile we're $40 trillion in debt and we're still racking all this shit up over to them. This country is the size of New Jersey. They literally run the United States of America at this point. Donald Trump got $235 million from AIPAC.
Yeah.
$235 million from AIPAC. Me and my wife play the fucking Powerball every week. We play the Powerball every week to try to get ahead on this shit. It's fucking stupid, right? He got $235 million from AIPAC. We're sending people to fucking war right now. American bodies are getting stacked, along with the thousands of other bodies from all over the goddamn place. What the fuck is happening? Go ahead, bud.
Well, and the crazy thing is the money he has in fucking that whole region, you know, between the his son Justin Israel invested $1.2 billion in a new Israel drone defense on top of all the money Israel's gave him. He has in Saudi Arabia, he has a $5.5 billion golf course. They gave Kushner, which is his son-in-law, a $2 billion investment. He has 2 Trump
Wasn't that
towers
like a Live
there.
Golf? Was there like you remember what Live Golf? Remember that they were stealing all the PGA
Yeah.
guys in Saudi Arabia?
Yep.
Wasn't that connected to that
And that
somehow?
was a big Yep, it's connected to that, and that's connected to Qatar too. Qatar's in that whole circle up there, and it's all that big money on the coast of, AEU, or I always fuck it up. AEU? Is it AEU or
United
AE?
Arab Emirates, I think.
Okay, I always fuck
UAE.
that one up, but he has a lot of money in that region in his family that means that when Israel's doing good, he's going to do good. If Israel's stable there as they see it, like they're going to do good. And there's a big push from the AU that they're saying that when this is over, that they want to take over Iran and make it a new energy tech capital of the region. Like they're already putting in play. And I think the crazy thing is too with our GDP is being held up right now by the defense spending, and the main beneficiary of that defense spending is Saudi Arabia. And with Venezuela's oil and all the shit that's going down there, Venezuela and Iran supply China for oil. So right now, Saudi Arabia is backfilling China with oil. So right now, Saudi Arabia is making bank off this war and backfilling China with oil. And that's where a lot of Trump's money is in as well. So this whole region and Trump's ties. And a funny thing, these aren't American companies. This is money that's going
the American
to Trump.
people aren't benefiting one goddamn fucking cent from this shit. As a matter of fact, we're about ready to get crucified energy-wise because of this shit.
And this is money that's going to Trump's families and his corporations and investment firms. This isn't like American business deals. This is money going to his circle, and fucking draining the swamp. I don't know, man. That swamp's getting pretty murky.
Dude, let's have one more Christian extremist. Let's have one more Christian extremist audio clip, shall we? Because I've been told my whole life when I was over there stacking Muslim bodies about how important it was to be against Muslim extremism. Because Muslims were killing people, right?
Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Is this the video of the religious advisor?
Yeah, that's the chick. This chick goes into tongues, bro. She's Donald Trump's religious advisor. She's this tiny little blonde gal with glasses. And
just real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a reminder, his last religious advisor went to jail for molesting a 13-year-old. Just in his last cabinet, his religious advisor, just so we know the type of people he's picking for that position.
This is just like Pete Hegseth's pastor being like, we love pedophiles in this church. Yeah. We love pedophiles. Bring them in here.
We're here.
Bring all the pedophiles in
we'll
here.
Bring them, we'll bring them back to Jesus. And we don't want women to vote either.
Man, I'm not. Can't do it.
It's fucking crazy.
Can't fucking do it, homie.
So crazy.
Like, you bring a pedophile around me, bro. Fuck. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna get into like some munition stuff and some more war stuff, but I gotta play this because once again, I don't give a shit. Like this is just we've been for decades been told, and I guarantee you I've spent more time with Muslims than probably, I can't say most of the people listening to this, for sure the people I know, a lot of the people I know, you know what I'm saying, and probably 90% of the audience for sure. I got a real good like foundational understanding of what the like Islamic community in a lot of ways is like, just on a regular basis, not on like an extremist basis. Okay. But there is absolutely Christian extremism in our country and within our military and within our political leadership. And it is becoming super duper apparent. It couldn't be more apparent than it is right now. And so here's Donald Trump, religious advisor, who's also going to talk in tongues for us. Whoop, here we go.
Strike and 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 strike until you have victory.
Victory. Victory.
Let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of shouting and singing. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. For I hear victory, 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 victory in the corridors of heaven. In the corridors of heaven, victory, 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 victory. For angels are being released right now. Angels are being dispatched right now. Amanda ata ata raka deda baka sanda ata ambo osa kata rite eke banda ata rite tidi ashata. For angels have even been dispatched from Africa right now. Africa right now. Africa right now. From Africa right now. They're coming here. They're coming here. In the name of Jesus, from South America. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. From Africa. From South America. Angelic forces. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Vika hata anda Allah. Ora bata rata ande eke eke manda rasata. For I hear the sound of victory. 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 I hear the sound of victory.
All right, that's enough. But I can hardly, dude, I can barely keep my shit together. Like, she's talking in tongues, talking about angels coming out of South Africa. Okay. I mean, angels can come out wherever the fuck they want, like they're angels, or they're UAPs, or they're aliens, whatever. I mean, how is this not, like, out of all the videos that we've played, and we played the video that we started with the goddamn guy from who wanted to level Gaza into a parking lot, blow the Dome of the Rock off the face of the earth so they could reenact the third temple. We got Pete Hegseth saying the exact same thing as that fucking guy. We got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of U.S. deployed military personnel who are willing to fucking sacrifice their goddamn lives for this mission, saying the same shit's coming through all their chain of command. And then you got this gal talking in tongues, who's Trump's spiritual advisor, and saying angels are coming out of South Africa and she can hear the sound of victory. Victory, 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 victory. How is that not religious extremism? How is that not, how in the fuck is that not exactly what the fuck we've been talking about for decades when we talk about religious extremism? Like, we've gone over there and killed millions of people, bro. In Iraq, we killed over 1 million motherfuckers. Over 1 million motherfuckers. How are we not the religious extremists at this point? Like, I'm starting to ask that question. How are we not the fucking religious extremists? We've done more goddamn killing than anybody. Fucking anybody.
Because there's no way to explain this war, so we have to create a narrative that makes sense for our Christian people, you know? And that's the only thing I could think of, because if you look at diplomacy, if you look at financials, there is no way, no explanation for this war outside of that. So it's finding a way for people to drink the Kool-Aid and get on board with it, you know? And that's the only thing I could think of. You know, it's fucking crazy.
Dude, it goes against everything. And this is the thing I was talking about with Trump. What I loved about that son of a bitch the most in 2016 was that he handed the neocons their ass on a silver platter in fucking public on a stage. Told them all the ways they were fucking up. Told them how terrible Iraq was. Told them how terrible the military industrial complex was. Told them how terrible the national debt was. Our debt, our spending, our international spending. The fact that we give for example, like Ukraine and Israel and a shit ton of other countries, like who the fuck funds the UN? Who the fuck funds NATO? We do. Goddamn
we do
us.
the majority. Yep.
Yeah, it's not fucking Spain. It's not fucking France. It's not those people hanging out in fucking England drinking tea and shit. It's goddamn us. We fund fucking UN. We fund fucking NATO. We fund Israel. We fund Ukraine. We fund goddamn everybody. And we could give a single shit about the American people. A single shit about the American people. And it's like, that's what drew me to him, was that. The fact that he preached against that stuff all the time. And obviously, I'm a fucking retard. I'm retarded. Apparently.
No, I mean,
like,
I think he set up a perfect trap, as far as and a lot of these deals with Saudi Arabia happened after his first presidency, and they were in between him moving into his second presidency. And I guess what bothers me about all this is the separation of church and state, and it's starting to look so not like that, and this is just another piece to that, and when you look into the Project 2025 stuff, and it takes a lot to get into, but like this was kind of a takeover with this Christian nationalism ideology, and
dude, I thought that entire thing was bullshit. I remember like that was like a QAnon, you know what I mean? I remember the 2025 thing. I remember my buddy Zach, shout out Zach, if you make it this far, Laporte, talking about this project, this 2025 project, and him asking me about it. And I really didn't know much, and I didn't take it that seriously. But just like on the right, like the Epstein Pizzagate stuff, like on the left, they were like kind of worrying about this 2025 project and some stuff. And it's like, none of us were fucking wrong. He wasn't fucking wrong thinking about the 2025 thing, obviously. I mean, all you got to do is listen to these videos and read into this shit that's happening right now, clearly. And then it's like, on the right side with Pizzagate and goddamn Epstein, they were fucking right too. Yeah. It's everybody's fucking right.
No, with the Project 2025, like if you look at Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, like just go watch videos and read college papers and shit of what these people wrote and organizations they were in when they were younger, and they're fucking the extreme Christian, like the type of, so there's a type of liberal that makes conservatives like hate that person, the blue-haired vulva hat wearing liberal. They hate that. Right. And there's a type of conservative that makes a liberal hate that person. And it's that type of conservative, sure. And the sad fact is they're probably between 15 and 20% of either party, but those are what either party sees when they say conservative or liberal. They don't see this in between where there's nuance and we could agree and disagree. They see fucking Pete Hegseth and some transgender politician somewhere else, and that's like the extremes of it, and not to say this is American. I think either people are to believe in how they could believe in what they want to believe in, but like keeping that shit out of fucking politics.
Do you know how crazy it is to have 200 plus deployed men and women come out and complain like this? I mean, I can speak on it to the fact that I geared up for deployment over and over again, right? And when you're about ready to be deployed, there's a lot of stuff that goes through your mind, obviously. But like staying alive is definitely one of those things. It's like real important, Yeah. And
up there on the list.
And adhering to the chain of command. And in the military, that's tough. It's tough. It's very, how do I explain it? Especially in like the lower enlisted ranks. If you're lower enlisted, man, You're taking a huge gamble by reporting this. I'll tell you that right now. If you're an E1 to E4, 5-ish, I mean, shit, higher than that, probably up to like E6-ish, you're having, like, if you're reporting this, there's a real good possibility you're going to have some real serious ramifications from your chain of command. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, the chain of command is a real serious thing when you're a lower enlisted person. And you get your ass handed to you and your career ruined like fucking quick. Quick. You're on a combat deployment. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're in the military and you want to stand out a little bit, maybe get a few awards, get some promotion potential, it's a good place to do it. It's a good fucking environment to get those things. And for you to put yourself out there on purpose like that and basically be like, I'm willing to put my name on this piece of paper and say this is bullshit, is like an E3 or an E4. Like, that's especially like under this administration with this leadership that seems to be super duper, like really, really Christian centric. And like we're talking about the second coming of Jesus. We're talking about revelations. We're talking about biblical prophecy right now. Like, this is a really, 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 this is a real singular issue for people. And if you're not one of those people that believes in those things, for you to put yourself out there and out your chain of command, it takes some fucking chutzpah to borrow that shit from the Israelis and the Jews. It takes some bottom, bro. You got to have some serious bottom to come out with that, to be able to like on your chain of command, say Colonel Fuzzy Nuts so-and-so, First Sergeant directly so-and-so, Platoon Sergeant so-and-so, PL so-and-so. Dude, that's a big deal, bro. That could end your career, man. I'm not fucking kidding about that. I am not kidding about. There's a very good possibility that they could end up in a war situation. And if you were one of those people that filed those complaints, they will fucking put you on the back of the bus. On the back of the bus. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Well, and especially in this administration, because Hegseth came in saying like we're going to make the military men again, and he had the big push to get women out, transgender people out. Like, Trump wants loyalists, and everybody he's putting in there from like and so for somebody who's in this sphere to come out and say, hey, this is what's going on, and it's going to be interesting, because I don't think any heads will fall from it, because that's what Trump wants, those type of loyalists leading his military, like there's this last presidency, there's been so much turnover in the military, more turnover than any other president, because people were either pushed out or said like, I don't want to do it. And I'm not one to say which direction the military was heading was good or bad. I'm not one to argue that. I don't know enough about the military to argue that, but I know in the last year there's been more turnover at leadership roles in the military than ever before in any other president. And now we're going to war.
You know what I gave a shit about when I was ready to get shot at? You know what I gave a shit about? Goddamn good leadership. I don't give a fuck if you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, fucking atheist, satanic, worship the fucking devil. Hey, I had one guy who probably was fucking borderline devil worshiper. I mean, this son of a bitch was as violent as fucking violent gets. Violent as violent gets. Short little sawed off son of a bitch, tatted up like crazy. If he's listening, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Evil.
But he knew how to lead men.
But I'll tell you what, like I knew for a fact if anything happened that I could count on, I could count on that son of a bitch to make good decisions that were going to save people's lives, save our lives. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't give a single shit what your religion was, what your color was, what your background was, where you came from. I don't give a fuck. And it's like, these guys don't either, bro. Like, most of them over there, especially if they have any kind of extensive combat experience already, they're going to be rolling their eyes at this shit. Big time. I mean, this is crazy, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I spent 10 years in the last war, tons of deployments on lots of different places with different agencies. I've never seen this. I've never seen it. And it's really hard for me to believe this shit. And so let's do a little bit of war info here. Because I think it's even though there's a blackout in the Middle East, there's really nothing coming out of there, especially since the first couple hits. And I think it was because it was surprising. You know what I mean?
Right.
It really surprised the fuck out of us and out of the Israelis, for sure. They did not think that Iran was going to fucking retaliate like this. I mean, I kind of feel like they thought it'd be like picking on a kid at the playground with two bigger kids. You know what I mean? Like you're two football players and you just picked a fight with a guy on the chess team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
come to find out the guy on the chess team knows fucking jujitsu. Like he knows jujitsu. So he knows just enough to hold your asses off a little bit and make you fucking feel some pain. And that's what's happening right now. Like we're feeling some pain. That little chess player that we thought we were just going to push around, it was just this shit was going to be over in a week, knows fucking jujitsu. That's what we just found out. And on top of that, what we're also finding out, and this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, is China is giving them fucking intel. So based on the reports I've heard, is basically every single military base that we have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars on in the Middle East to maintain, because we have more military bases by 2 or 3 times than the next closest fucking superpower, which I think is Russia. I think Russia has the next closest when it comes to military bases, but it's still only like the tens. We have hundreds of military bases. It's not even close. We have more than anybody by far. We spend billions of dollars on these military bases, Bahrain, Dubai, the embassies, UAE, all that stuff. And from what I'm hearing, and we obviously could be wrong, but the media blackout kind of tells me we're not wrong, is these fucking places are gone. Like they're fucking gone. Like and on top of that, here's the deal too. If you're in Bahrain, we have a huge, like I talked about Bahrain in the last episode. We have a huge naval contingent in Bahrain with special operations capabilities in Bahrain, and it's a permanent deal. We relocated like all of our air defense and defense systems from like Bahrain, Dubai, all these other embassies and shit to Israel. One of the main reasons why Bahrain and all these places were like, yeah, put a military base here, that's fine, was because we gave them money and security. That was the deal. Security was the deal. That was half the deal. You think they're going to let us put military bases there again? I don't know. I don't know, man. Like I see a huge shift in power right now. A huge shift. And here's another thing. We're running fucking critically low on weapon systems. Our entire military through the military industrial complex was designed to fight in a Cold War scenario in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's kind of not for this, but we've also given away a shit ton of our stockpiles to not just Israel, but Ukraine. Everybody's just forgetting about fucking Ukraine. Like there's a massive war still taking place between Russia and Ukraine right now. We gave Ukraine a shit ton of our stuff. For example, we had 4,000 Tomahawk missiles, 4,000 in our entire arsenal. Our entire arsenal. You don't get that shit back quick, people. It takes years to redevelop that technology and put it back in your arsenal. We gave Ukraine a shit ton of them. We don't know exactly how many, but a ton of those Tomahawks. And also, just in the last 4 days of this war with Iran, we've used 400 Tomahawk missiles. 400, 100 a day, 100 a day. And in the 2026 budget plan, and I don't know where in the hell all this goddamn money goes because, you know, obviously the Department of Defense eats up a shit ton of our like GDP and like money just in general. They get a huge chunk of it. You know how many missiles they reordered? How many Tomahawks they reordered? 59.
Yeah.
59 Tomahawks. We've expunged, we don't even know. We're so critically, as a matter of fact, we're so low right now that we're moving away from precision guided, like smart bombs. We're moving away from them. we don't
and
have. Yeah, go ahead.
we're setting up to fight the war Iran wants. They've been stockpiling fucking missiles for 20 fucking years. You know, they want this kind of war. And their government structure is set up like it's not like cut the head of the snake off and they're not going to continue to. They have a fairly good government structure in Iran, so they just keep on flowing. You know, they've been planning this attack for 20 fucking years. You know?
Oh yeah, the big problem was like we just thought it was going to be like Operation Midnight Hammer, where we were just going to bitch slap them and walk away.
Yep.
And they've been bitch slapped a lot. I mean, they've sent out, there's terrorist elements and like this and that, but they haven't had like a full scale war in a hell of a long time since the Iraq War, since the Iran-Iraq War in like the 1980s. It's kind of like China. I mean, China hasn't fought a war since the Korean War in like the 1950s. We don't have any idea what their capabilities are, but they're giving a shit ton of intel to Iran. That's the reason why Iran is getting so effective on hitting our military bases and just blowing them off the face of the fucking earth. Because China's giving them a shit ton of intelligence. And why wouldn't they? Also, hey, what do we do with our weapon systems when we give them to Israel and Ukraine? We test them. The reason we give weapon systems to Israel and Ukraine is so we test them on human beings to see what actually happens. China is doing the same thing now with Iran. It's happening to us. What we've been doing for decades and decades and decades is now happening to us, and it's not even being reported because everything coming out of the Middle East is fucking blacked out. We don't know how bad it is. We don't. And I guarantee you shouldn't be listening to the fucking people on Fox News and CNN because they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And here's another thing. I think it was CNN. They were reporting from Israel, and they literally said on live TV, that Israel would not allow them to report on what they wanted to report on. Once again, who the fuck's running who? I'm sorry, bro. Israel shouldn't be telling us dick. Nothing. Zero things.
Yeah, and it's fucking beyond me, man. I'm just, it's beyond me that we're there. It's beyond me how much money we're spending. I really can't fucking.
You know what we're about ready to do? We're about ready to start using what's called gravity bombs. You know what gravity bombs are? They're stupid bombs. Think about World War II. Gravity bombs are bombs that so here's the deal. So when we're talking about like standoff weapons are weapons you can fire from like aircraft carriers the way the fuck out in the ocean, submarines, way the hell out, smart bombs. Apparently we've already used up a lot of that supply already because we thought that we would do a heavy-handed hit and they would just quit immediately, which isn't happening.
Right.
So now we're going to start sending in our massive, like our big troop transport ships, and we're going to be dropping gravity bombs in Iran, in Iranian airspace, which does what? If Iran's capable and we haven't knocked everything out, it puts those bombers in harm's way big time. And it's not just the bombers. The U.S. Abraham Lincoln has now repositioned itself within ballistic missile range of Iran. So now Iran's ballistic missiles, if we haven't knocked them all out, and who the fuck knows what's going on because of the blackout, the USS Abraham Lincoln is repositioning itself closer so it can send in munitions. And we're using gravity bombs. So tell me that our arsenal isn't seriously depleted right now.
Yeah.
It's more depleted than we think it is. And I don't know where in the hell all this goddamn money goes. Because we can't wait to give all of our shit away to everybody else.
And if you listen to Hegseth and Trump said it's 15 out of 10 is how it's going in Iran right now. You know, and then I saw media reports where there's been up to 785 casualties, civilian casualties in Iran, which who knows the real number. And then another American casualties was up to 625, and that was coming from a Thailand newspaper. So, I mean, who knows what the real story is, but that was some of the numbers.
There's one good thing. Apparently I heard there was a couple journalists there. like supposedly there's like 17,000 Kurdish fighters that are about ready to do a land assault into Iran.
Right.
And obviously they're going to be there with tier 2 Green Berets, which do a shit ton of indigenous work like that. Like there's no way.
Right.
The whole boots on the ground thing, like we're not sending in 17,000 Kurdish fighters without a shit ton of American advisors. A shit ton.
Right. Yeah.
And the Green Beanies,
Well,
they kind of specialize in that stuff.
did you hear the sitting prime minister of Iran talking about that today? He said, bring it. He's like, send them in. We've been waiting for him. Bring him in.
And that's the thing too. Dude, empires die in these mountains. Like, why has nobody been able to conquer Afghanistan in hundreds of years? The British Empire was killed in Afghanistan. They weren't able to do shit. The Russian Empire, same thing. Our empire, 2 decades fighting there. Like, we left the Taliban with billions of dollars of equipment and people hanging off of fucking C-17s as we were leaving Kabul International Airport, dropping from thousands of feet off of a plane they were just hanging on to try to get out of the country.
And what people don't get also is Iran's the size of fucking Texas.
It's huge. It's way bigger than Iraq.
They've been blanket bombing fucking Gaza for fucking 4 years, and they still have parts of Gaza left. You know, it's not just go in and bomb this whole fucking country. You know, it's not.
Dude, Iran's got huge mountains. Huge. Yeah. It rivals the Rocky Mountains. Hey, if you live in the Rocky Mountains, take a look outside. That's fucking Iran. That was me in Afghanistan. I remember the first time I went to Afghanistan in like 2003. I couldn't believe it was like being in the Rocky Mountains. There was aspen trees, creeks, fucking pine trees, huge mountains. We were doing patrols in goddamn a foot of snow. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it was literally like being in the Rocky Mountains. And that's exactly what Iran is. You lose your assets because of weather, because of elevation. The fighting is, it's rugged. It's difficult, man. It's real. And if you don't know the area, you don't know the terrain, you have a huge disadvantage because you lose a lot of assets in that kind of weather, in those kind of environments. Like all the assets that makes us like super special in a lot of ways, because of weather and because of terrain, it mitigates that stuff big time for us, you know? And Iran is a huge problem because of that. It is a major, major country. It is highly mountainous. It is a very, very difficult war. If you're going to put boots on the ground, like to think, if we go boots on the ground and you hear somebody like Hegseth or Trump saying this shit's going to be over in a month and you believe it, I got some oceanfront property in fucking Arizona to sell you too, because you're retarded. I mean... Who in the fuck? Like, just take a look, man. Take out a topo map. Get a goddamn topo map and look at fucking Iran. And you tell me how you're going to handle that shit. Especially when they have like 1 million fighters. They have more than 1 million fighters, actually. They have a shit ton of fighters in that country. Like, there's 3 or 4 different sects that are super duper loyal to the regime. And as far as we know, based on all the intel we have right now, they haven't defected at all.
Right.
Like, they're waiting. They're waiting for the invasion.
Well, and the funny thing is like the places we bombed are the people who would be sympathizers for the regime change, you know, like these big cities where they're more liberal moving forward and where a lot of like the protests took place, where they saw their own government killing their protesters. They're like more for the regime change. And it's just like America. You have all these militia groups tucked in the woods and the mountains with their guns who will die for their fucking country waiting for it. And they bomb the places that would be more sympathetic for the regime change, which is a funny part, you know? And in doing that, hitting a school with 100 schoolgirls in it and everything else, you know?
200.
It's fucking crazy.
200.
Yeah.
200 schoolgirls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, more to come, homie. More to come, man. Like this, I'm glad we were able to do this one because I think the religious aspect, it was hard to believe. And I felt compelled that we had to say something about this, you know, because everything's happening so fast.
And I think it's one of those things where like how it's trickling down into the military and everything else. Like I'm all about freedom of religion. If you want to believe in God in that way, do it on your own fucking time. More power to you, you know?
Yep.
But like this,
just like how the founders talked about.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I don't. But this whole tribal fucking, yeah, it's getting fucking weird, man.
Yeah, it's bro. I think we're like I said. I think my war was a satellite war, dude. I think we got a lot to worry about. I
Yep.
mean, Trump could call it tonight and just declare victory and walk away, and that would be the best thing he could do. But
Yep.
I don't think that's. I mean, based on how things are going right now, and Lindsey Graham jerking off in the corner talking about bombing Cuba and bombing fucking uh like Lebanon and all these other goddamn
Yeah.
places. Like Lindsey, I can't
They're
stand that little prick.
they're talking
He's
about
such a little
sending troops
pussy
in.
too. Like that guy. If anybody needs to get a plate carrier and a rifle, it's fucking Lindsey Graham. Put his ass on the
Yeah.
front fucking lines,
Yep. Votes for every fucking war.
dude. Dude.
Uh,
Anyway, man, you got
yeah.
anything else?
I mean, yeah, but nothing, nothing for tonight. So
That was it. Yeah, we got plenty of stuff.
yeah,
Oh shit, man. All right. Well, we'll fire off another one the beginning of next week. We'll see what happens over the weekend, dude. But I don't know, man. I don't have a whole lot of high hope, dude. I'm kind of concerned, man. I'm glad that I'm kind of as prepared as I am for the family because I don't know what the future holds. And I'm pretty worried about China and some other outfits, especially if we're running this low on munitions and anti-aircraft
right.
stuff. And China hasn't fought a war since the 50s, and we really have no idea what their capabilities are. And they have a standing army of millions and millions of people and technology fucking basically as good as ours. And they haven't displayed it because they don't attack people. They don't kill people. We can talk all the
Well,
shit we want to talk about China. They're not out there fucking attacking people over and over again, ending people's lives for fucking decades and decades and decades and
yep,
decades and decades like we do. I mean, from
yep,
Vietnam all the way up to now, it's just endless with us. We really, really like to think highly of ourselves, don't we? Like we fucking
yeah,
really do.
until the end, and that's the. I think we're getting a. As an American, if you can't see that the establishment has let you down, and it's from the top up, it's not from the bottom up, like they want to paint that picture. You should be eating a big thing of humble pie because it's what's going on.
Yeah, man. It's sad, dude. It breaks my heart, bro. It really does. It breaks my heart, man, because I just don't see a lot of people out there willing to fight for it. I fucking don't. I
Yeah,
honestly don't. You know? I mean, we'll see what
and there's a
happens,
lot of
but
we they there's a lot of people who want to fight each other. They don't want to fight the real fucking problem, and that's the problem.
yeah, exactly. It's not a left or right
PFP.
thing, man. It's fucking not, bro.
Yep.
That's what's so like we're not promoting the left or the right. We're saying everything's fucked. All of it.
Yeah.
The debt, the parties, the military industrial complex, international relations, geopolitics,
Right.
the economy. The economy is super fucked. About ready to get way worse.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We'll see what happens, brother. Love you, man. I hope you have a
All right,
freaking
love you,
awesome
bud.
weekend, dude.